The San Francisco 49ers are heading back to the playoffs after losing their franchise quarterback in week 2 of the NFL season. And on the back of Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy, today we're going to take a look at if Trey Lance is expendable, if it's Brock Purdy time in San Francisco, or if maybe Jimmy Garoppolo is coming back. We'll dive into all of this and more. Let's do it. What is up, y'all? Welcome into kind of a new video. I haven't done any of these for the Debbie Royale YouTube channel, but we are taking a look at maybe some dynasty value, but mostly what is going to happen with Trey Lance in San Francisco. What is the NFL team going to decide to do with their former very high draft pick after the success of Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy within that same offense? Make sure you like and subscribe and turn on those notifications. We drop a video pretty much every day. This is our first Sunday video, so we'll see how that goes. But today we're going to be talking about Trey Lance and if he is expendable or not. There are some valid questions, I think, based on his performance on the field and based on the emergence of another rookie quarterback that just operates the offense in a very nice way, in a very I don't want any of this to be taken as I am a Brock Purdy hater. I know that San Francisco 49ers, Niners Nation loves Brock Purdy right now. I get it. But we're going to talk about why maybe he's not the answer, why maybe Trey Lance can be. But let's get into the performance of these quarterbacks this year. So Brock Purdy, 0.4 completion percentage over expectation and 0.214 EPA per play. So he has performed very well. But if you look at Jimmy Garoppolo's numbers, so negative 0.7 completion percentage over expectation, which is pretty on par with what Jimmy G traditionally does. Traditionally, his receivers are bailing him out and things like that. But he operates this offense very well too. 0.236 EPA per play. EPA per play, estimated points added for those who don't follow advanced analytics. So on a points added basis, Jimmy Garoppolo has been the best quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I want to throw that out there because a lot of Niners fans, media, analysts, fantasy football analysts, everyone are saying, wow, look at how great Brock Purdy is. He's been the best quarterback. To hell with Jimmy G. And that's just not true. He's actually been worse than Jimmy Garoppolo statistically. And then Trey Lance. So week 1, negative 19.1 completion percentage over expectation and negative 0.16 EPA per play. It is so crucial to remember what week 1 was for the San Francisco 49ers. It was their slop game at Soldier Field. It was the muddy field where no one could get their footing. No receivers could get open. No offensive linemen could get out of their stances. So Trey Lance had a ton of pressure in his face. It was just not a good situation to play football in. And honestly, it was an unsafe situation and they shouldn't have played the damn game, but they did. And here we are, right? So that is by far the moment I think that is sticking in people's heads for Trey Lance was this slop game. If you look back at it, Justin Fields didn't play well. He had a big broken play where he scrambled around in the backfield and hit a nice long, I think it was to Equinemius St. Brown, whoever. And that was kind of the one highlight of that game. Trey Lance didn't play well, but there were things that Trey Lance did within that game that you saw the flashes of, okay, this is why they traded up to go get him. Despite the weather, despite the fact that no one could keep their footing. Week 2, we saw a little bit of that improvement. So negative 1.7 completion percentage over expectation. It's also crucial to remember that in this game, Trey Lance only played on 2 drives. And really, he didn't even finish the second drive because he got hurt at the very end of it. But he led 2, I believe they were in the red zone both times, 2 red zone drives. They got 3 points out of it. And so his 0.07 EPA per play came on 2 drives. And so that's actually a pretty good clip. It's obviously not the 0.23 or the 0.21 that we're seeing from the other guys, but there's a larger sample for both of them. And in that game, people clearly forget because it is such a small sample within that game, but he was operating the offense just fine. The one incompletion that he had pressure immediately in his face, and sure, there was a guy running wide open. He couldn't see him because he had pressure in his face. So really, we're looking at two nice completions. Although I would argue one was with pressure in his face. He probably shouldn't have thrown it. Receiver kind of bailed him out, and I wonder if that kind of hurt his completion percentage over expectation. But who knows? I don't know how those things are calculated. I do believe that these are good statistics and they do kind of correlate to success, which is why I think that sometimes it's valid to question if Trey Lance is the guy. I think there are times where he can be a bit erratic with his throws, but it's really important to remember that this was going to be his first year fully operating this offense. And it's also really important to remember that the offense that Trey Lance was going to run was going to look a lot different than the one that Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy ran. We already saw flashes of it. We saw some quarterback power. We saw some quarterback draw. We saw a few little wrinkles that I believe is the reason that the 49ers went up to get Trey Lance. So in the trade, they gave up 3 first-round picks and a third-round pick, and they received Trey Lance. That's a lot of draft capital, and there has to be a reason for that, right? There are rumors that, oh, they wanted Mac Jones, or Shanahan wanted Mac Jones, but John Lynch didn't. Um, I don't think that can be true. I don't think that that's necessarily true because I think there has to be organizational a hive mind type of deal within the organization when it comes to the franchise quarterback. And when you're giving up that many assets, there are certain people that need to give clearance to it. And there are a lot of questions right now. Well, does Kyle want Trey Lance? I would imagine Kyle wants Trey Lance over Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy for the sheer fact that he can open up an offensive scheme that he cannot run with Purdy or Garoppolo. These runs, not necessarily just the runs though, but just the threat of the quarterback running opens up so much for the running game, for the play action passing game. We're seeing it in Chicago. We see it sometimes in Baltimore, though that's kind of been pretty crappy this year. But you see shades of that across the NFL, and you see how beneficial it is to have a running quarterback. Look at what the Eagles are doing. Later today, if you're watching this when it drops, we're going to see the quarterback running bowl between Hurts and Fields, and what those two offenses are. And when you factor in that Kyle Shanahan offenses have been really good in the past, without that, then you're introducing a wrinkle that's almost cheat code esque with Trey Lance being able to pick up yards on the ground. So I do think that that's why they went up to get him. Now, with Brock Purdy's success, it's really important that like face value statistics too aren't in favor of Trey Lance. He doesn't complete balls at a high rate. But again, our sample size is so small in the NFL, and he's only 22 years old. So, but Brock Purdy this year, 66.7 completion percentage, 678 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a 100.6 rating. He's operated the offense effectively, but it's really important to remember. So his on-target percentage is actually lower than anything Trey Lance has posted in the first 2 years of his career. His on-target percentage is hovering around 50%. So that Jimmy G thing where, receivers are bailing out, that's pretty similar with Brock Purdy. Those two things kind of go together, or those two quarterbacks kind of have a similar style, right? Which I think is why Brock Purdy steps in and operates the offense really nicely. But you have to see the theatrics, or not the theatrics, but the way they scheme things up when Purdy's in there versus what they would have done had Trey Lance been the starter is just not the same. The double fake screen to get a tight end wide open over the middle, that isn't something that you'll need to do with Trey Lance. Now you can do it, and he can complete that pass. Brock Purdy isn't doing a whole lot that I think is very, very difficult. And so I think that that's another important thing to remember. The question here is Trey Lance expendable? Because I think we've seen enough proof that this offense can operate, and it does operate very effectively without a running quarterback and without a guy that might make some mistakes and grow within the offense. And San Francisco is very win now, and they never stopped being win now. I think that's an important note as well. But no, he is not expendable. That's crazy talk. You don't give up 3 firsts and a third to go get this guy and then sit him behind the last pick of the draft. And I know this, yeah, everyone says, oh, sunk cost fallacy. That's not how the NFL works. I think you have to prove that you're not good at football to not be given an opportunity. I don't think an injury can knock a guy like Trey Lance out of a starting spot, especially when he was playing fine. He was playing fine. We don't have any proof that he's not good at football. Zach Wilson, on the other hand, he's getting another start today, but I think you can make an argument that we have hard proof that he has not figured it out or that he still needs to develop. And so I could see the Jets moving on from Zach Wilson. And I would call him expendable for them too, right? But Trey Lance, on the other hand, has not proven that he is bad at football. In fact, I would argue that the flashes of brilliance have been there. The reason that they drafted him, intangibly, there's a reason he was a top 3 draft pick. If you go watch some of his interviews, and this was something I really loved about his game pre-draft, he was my quarterback 3. In that year, I had Fields 1, Lawrence 2, and then Lance. But when you go back and watch some of his interviews, the humble nature that he plays with, and the fact that he had to go to North Dakota State because no one would offer him a quarterback scholarship. They wanted him to switch positions, and the fact that he did that and still was able to do what he did. He's a very smart football player. He operated a pro style offense in college. Like, there are things about Trey Lance that made me believe that he would be very pro ready. And we didn't get that opportunity really to see that in his rookie year, and that's fine. That's Jimmy Garoppolo was there. But we were going to see that this year. And so an injury in week 2 should not make a quarterback expendable when you've sunk 3 firsts and another day 2 pick into making him your franchise guy. And that is exactly what Trey Lance is. He is the franchise guy for the San Francisco 49ers. Sure, maybe you say, hey, it's a competition. We're going to let Purdy go out there. But it's probably going to be a competition in the same way that Gardner Minshew versus Trevor Lawrence was a competition last year. I just don't see a world in which Purdy comes out the winner there, especially when Lance has now gotten 2 seasons to learn what the NFL is and how to operate an NFL offense and what the calls are. And if the offense stays the same, he's going to be running something similar. It will be different. It will have different wrinkles. But I actually think that this injury is going to be super beneficial for his long-term career. I think that he's going to take this opportunity to learn what Jimmy Garoppolo does, even more so than he did in his first year, and then learn how Brock Purdy was able to kind of command the offense. I think it's going to be really good. I think Trey Lance still has superstar potential, and so no, he is not expendable. From a fantasy football perspective, I did want to tie it back to that. Go get Trey Lance in Dynasty, folks. Just go get him. You're probably going to be able to get him cheap. There are a few people out there I know in my leagues that are very concerned about if Trey Lance is going to be the starter next year. And so what you can do is you can get him at a little bit of a discount and get what I think will be a perennial QB1 in fantasy football for cheap. So that is my advice on that. I think Trey Lance is going to be the 2023 starter. I think he's going to be the 2024 starter. I think he's going to start in San Francisco for a very long time. And I think that doesn't hurt their win now chances because I think that he's going to be pretty damn good too. So that'll do it for this video. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, hit those notifications, drop a comment. I know there are a lot of split opinions on Trey Lance, but let me know what you think. Do you think that he's expendable? Do you think Brock Purdy is the guy? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, thank you guys for watching.